Welcome back to the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. I'm your host, Renita Ray Davis, and this is a continuation of our Remember Me series where we shine a light on the people and programs working to support older adults, caregivers, and families here in Alabama. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Erica Dixon, the transition coordinator with the Gateway to Community Living program at the Central Alabama Aging Consortium. Erica is a Montgomery native and a proud graduate of Alabama A&M University, where she earned her bachelor's degree in social work in 1996. And for nearly 3 decades, she has dedicated her career to caring for seniors, individuals, and disabilities, and those navigating mental health and substance use challenges. At CAAC, she has served as an elderly and disabled waiver case manager, an ACT waiver case manager, and now brings her wealth of experience to the Gateway program. Through every role, Erica has been a fierce advocate, always making sure her clients have the resources they need to maintain dignity and an excellent quality of life. I cannot wait for you to hear her story and the heart she brings to this work. Welcome to the podcast, Erica.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for the invite.
You are so welcome. We are excited for you to be here. We really are. And Erica, when I read your bio last night, or this when I got it via email recently, I there was two things that stood out to me that made me so super excited that I wanted to talk to you. Yes, we're going to talk about the Gateway program, but first, people who've been listening to the podcast episodes know that I love hearing about people's experiences at HBCUs. I didn't get to go to one, so I always love living vicariously through those who went to HBCUs. I want to know about what was it like for you to go to Alabama A&M University?
Yes, ma'am. It was life changing for me actually, because I grew up in a home, kind of sheltered life, I would say. Um, and I was a daddy's girl. So I had to go. So when I went to A&M, I grew up quickly. I learned quickly about money management because my dad was a stickler, this is all you get, and you ain't getting no more till the next month. So I had to really budget and manage money quickly. So I became very responsible. So it taught me a lot, being responsible. I even had the creativity. It taught me how to pull and how to be creative and things. But it was a good experience, my 4 years. So actually, I'll share this with you. Actually, my freshman year, I completed my freshman year. At the end, I actually became pregnant with my daughter. So I actually stayed out a year, but I went back because one thing, I didn't want my daughter to give up on. If you start something, don't just give up on it. And I didn't want to give up on getting my degree, so I did what I had to do to go back. And God uh, afforded me the opportunity to go back to Alabama A&M because actually I was looking to stay in Montgomery because like I say, I am from Montgomery. But the Lord afforded me a way to go back to Alabama A&M and complete my degree. So I was super excited about that and grateful for that.
Erica, that is an amazing testimony. Why? I'm wondering, why was it so important to you? Because a lot of people would have just been like, okay, I'm pregnant, first year, I'm done. I gotta. Why was it so important to you to go back? And was that difficult for you to leave your baby girl, or did you take her with you?
I took her with me. She stayed with me.
Wow.
I think my senior year, because just the workload itself, I had to go back to my mom and dad, and I thank God for just my support. Having my mom and dad there, having my siblings say, "Oh God, please don't let me cry right now." And I chose this day to do the podcast with you because today is my brother's birthday. He's deceased now. So he was probably my biggest cheerleader. and my biggest supporter. Um, I'll never forget. He said because at A&M we have hills, so you have to do it, and I had to do a lot of walking. Didn't have a car at the time, so he bought me my tennis shoes and said, "You're gonna need these." So I just thank God for him, and like I said, my mom and dad, just for the support that they gave me. But like I said, my last year, like I said, with the workload, trying to take care of my little one, and I tell her, "You went through college with me too," But that last year, she did stay at home with my parents, just so I could do my internship and get my classes done. And I think, it just wasn't a proud moment for me, but for my dad too. Yeah.
I,
Because yeah,
I
I was the
bet he
first
was so proud of you. Yeah, you were the first one.
to graduate. I must have they went to college but didn't complete. But I was the first one to actually complete. So that was a proud moment for him to really, and I was happy, just to see him there with the smile to see me get that degree. So yeah, yes, ma'am.
You are just starting off with a bang. This is just an amazing, amazing testimony. And one of the favorite things I love doing on the podcast is I do like to honor those who came before us. And I hear your brother, and today is his birthday. I want to say his name, and we can dedicate this podcast episode to him. What is his name, Erica?
It's Todd Dixon.
Todd Dixon. Happy heavenly birthday. Happy heavenly birthday. He would be so super proud of you.
I believe it. I believe he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And so your daughter my daughter went to college with me too. I went to Auburn and she went to Auburn with me. She ended up
Uh,
going to Auburn to get her she got her undergraduate degree at Auburn. Is your daughter, does she feel like A&M feels like home? Because that's what my daughter said. She feels like Auburn felt like home for her. Does your
yeah.
daughter feel like A&M feels like home for her too?
Oh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah. I think when she was smaller, we went back as much as we can. We don't go back as much now. But yeah, she said that is home for her. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And what a powerful testimony. And I love that you are giving honor to your parents, to your brother, to the support system, because it takes a village for us to do hard things. Yeah.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Tell me, one of the reasons I started the Guys of Social Work podcast is because I love hearing the journeys, the stories of social workers. And I
Mm,
told you there was two things that really stood out to me when I read your bio, and it was one that you went to an HBCU, and then
mhm.
two that you're a social worker. I'm like, oh my goodness, she's one of my people. And so, what was your journey to social work? Because you went to Alabama A&M. One, I wonder how'd you end up there? Why did you pick that school? But then you picked social work as a major. So I'm always curious, like, how did you even find out about social work, and how did you end up at Alabama A&M?
Right. Well, actually, my brother went to A&M before me, of course. Um, and he said, you just got to come. I think I went like for a football game or something. And I just, at the time, like I said, I lived in kind of a shelter home. I just kind of wanted to get out of Montgomery, get out from around my parents, and just see if I could do life on my own, in my own terms. Um, but the way I got to social work, I actually wanted to be a school teacher. I grew up wanting to be a teacher. Um, because I think I've taught really all my life in the church, actually. I taught all my life being Sunday school teacher, and I just wanted to even just go into being just a school teacher. But in school we take this test that kind of tells you about what career you're in, and mine did lean more towards social work or social services, and I guess I still could have went into teaching. But at the time that I was getting ready to go to college, my sister actually had gotten back into college, and she was getting her degree in social work. So I just began to, and I think even through my counselor at school, just kind of, she gave us, like things about school teachers. I think the social work was in there and all this. And so I just chose social work. I said, let me just see how this go. And I wouldn't take anything from my journey. I'm glad I didn't. Because I think with social worker, even as I went through college and even just getting into the workforce, I could do a lot with my social work degree. I could still be a school teacher. It's a lot. You could do a lot of things with that. So I think just having that degree and giving me the flexibility to go whichever avenue I want to choose. So
I
I think
love that
that's
you
why.
know that. Like you could do a lot with your because I was going to say, okay, so you didn't teach, but you're still an educator because social workers are educators.
Yeah, yeah, because I still taught even with social worker, because I ended up, along my journey, as you say, working in like it was uh, it was like a day program. And when I worked in the mental health field, they had a day program where the clients came and we taught them it was life skills, and I was still teaching. So I still taught. So hey,
You should. We should. I don't. I think that we uh, don't talk a lot about how social workers are educators, and so
mhm,
yeah, you are absolutely teaching. I'm sure you're still teaching even you're about to teach us about this gateway program. But before we go there, I find it so intriguing that your sister a social worker, or she just
she did. She I went back to school because she had started, like had stopped. She had children, but she did go back herself and complete and get a degree in social worker. Yeah,
so there's two social workers in your family.
man. Yeah.
My I'm just like
Now,
excited
older.
about that.
She's worked and retired, so she's older than me. So
Yes. You know what? We would love to have your sister on the podcast one day. If she ever decided, I would love to talk about
yeah.
her experiences as a social worker, because I always want to give honor to those social workers who came before us and paved the way. And so I think that's so cool. She led the way for you to become a social worker. So you guys are just a family of social workers.
Where is it me and her? I guess you say.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
more than most, though. That is for the most. So tell me a little bit about your journey. So I heard, we talked a little bit about you, at least at CAC. You are elderly and disabled waiver case manager, an ACT waiver case manager. But before you did all of that, it sounded like you did a whole lot of other things within the field of social work. Can you give us a little snippet about what your 30-year journey has been?
Yes, ma'am. I actually always wanted to work with the elderly and veterans. I even tried to do my internship. I can take you back to my internship, but those internship spots got filled quickly. So I ended up having to do my internship at the mental health center. And the only thing I knew about mental health is what I saw on television and the movies. And so I went in kind of nervous and scared. But the first thing I was told when they set me down was forget about what you saw on TV, forget about what you see on the movies. It's nothing like that. And true enough, it was nothing like that. I went in uh, just bunch of loving people. I mean, it's just, it blows my mind, even, how complex our mind is. And then people go through whether it's depression or a psychotic break or whatever it is, just from life itself. But just interacting with them, just being able to just assist them in whatever, was going on with them that day, it was really rewarding. I really enjoyed. I actually ended up after I graduated, working for mental health, and that kind of opened the door because I ended staying in Huntsville for a while, working at the mental health center there, and then I moved back to Montgomery because my father ended up passing, so I moved to Montgomery to be with my mom, and so I got a job. I finally got employed with the mental health center in Montgomery, and that's where I was for a good little while. And I don't know if I'm getting ahead of you, but we had talked about burnout. But after so many years of, just really, like you said, being the advocate, making sure they got what they need, assisting them, doing all you can for them, I got burned out. I had kind of worked my way up to like a supervisory position, and I got burned out, and I actually left the field for a while. On the side, I do event planning, and so I did that for a while, but then there was a calling, like was calling me back. So this time I had the opportunity to kind of do social work and keep my event planning because I got into recreational therapy. So here I am doing activities, and this is where I really began to work with the elderly at this point because I'm on a geriatric psychiatric ward doing recreational therapy at this point. So so from there, then that's when I kind of made my way to CAC. So here we are now.
Yeah, I like because I was going to say event. What I have found with social workers, we are event planners. We get in the right position, we end up being event planners, and so to be able to tie that in, can we lean into that a little bit more? Because yes, I want to talk about your journey with burnout because that's one of the topics we don't talk a lot about in social work, but it is so prevalent. What did burnout look like for you? As far as within just personally and then even with your interactions in the agencies and with your client, and then what did you learn from, and I'm sure it was more than just one occasion of being burnt out, what have you learned about having been burnt out in the profession of social work?
And you're right, we have moments, but
Mm-hmm.
I think the big burnout for me, which kind of caused me to just kind of step away from the profession for a while, was, I just wasn't dealing with things on the job, but dealing with things personally because now I'm having to be a caregiver for my mom at this point, and still trying to work full time, and it's just trying to balance that. I still at this time my daughter's probably about like a teenager, and I don't know if you know what's raising teenagers like. So, oh mercy. So, just trying to balance all of that. I probably needed a case manager at this point, or needed a social worker to try to help me to balance life itself. But it just like, when all the three of these components start crashing together, fatigue. That's probably was the biggest thing. Me not getting the rest that I needed. Um, me, just falling short at this place, like if you give too much attention at home, then you start lacking at the work. You give too much attention at work, then home life started lacking. So it was just kind of hard for me just to kind of find that balance between it all, and then I think even at the time I was very prominent in my working in my church, So it was just hard trying to balance all of that for myself. And it just got to the point where I said, something got to give. I got to be here for my mom at this point. So I know this work right now is kind of very stressful for me. So I had to kind of step back and let go and to give my attention now to my mom. So when I kind of got that situation, I did return back to the workforce. But like I said, I ended up doing the event planning. So
Erica, I'm wondering, we're glad, and we're also glad that social work called you back. So, because I'm excited about learning about your program, but I'm still in this burnout energy, and a lot of people, especially you said you were with mental health here in Montgomery for a while. Some people would be afraid to walk away. You mean walk away from my job that pays me on a biweekly or monthly basis, and I've invested all this time and effort and energy into a career and walk away. I'm wondering, like, what was that experience like for you, and what advice would you have for someone who may be feeling some burnout and is scared to walk away for a little bit?
But it was hard,
Mm-hmm.
because say at this point I'm in a supervisor role, so it's like, my phone is ringing all the time. Somebody always needs you. Somebody, you pulling on you for this, that. So like I say, I got to the point to where, and I'm the type of if I can't do this job well, I don't want to have do it. And I think that what was happening with me, and it was just became kind of frustrated because I couldn't fully commit to this job, and I couldn't fully commit to my mom, caring for her. And, even though I have other siblings, I'm the only one here. They live, in other places. They would come, and help out, but then it would only be for a short time. Then they would have to go back to their lives. So, and I'm still here trying to maintain, trying to do this. But then I saw, even with myself, it started affecting my health, you know, because if you don't, we all know if you don't manage your stress can turn out all kind of ways, high blood pressure, diabetes, whatever, muscle aches, all of that can begin to come on us. So when I started notice physically, okay, I'm not going to be good for myself or nobody around me if I don't get a handle on what. So I think that was the as they say, the straw breaking the camel back is when I started breaking down. I had to do what I had to do to help myself get better, so I could be there not just for my mom, but even if I continued on the job for that. But I just knew I had to step away from the job for a while, just to turn my attention to her.
I appreciate that. And then you went into event planning. And I guess the question I have for you then was being able to step away from social work for a little bit and go into a completely different or what we think is different, you know, work experiences. What did that do for your health, for your mental health, for your physical health? Just turning off that caregiving of, in social work, we were caring for everybody. And obviously, like you said, your mom as well, but at least professionally, we are professional caregivers. What did it feel like to turn that off for a little bit and go into this new arena?
Well, one, it gave me some peace. I was able to have some peace in what I was doing. And just, I think just doing something different, it kind of increased in my creativity as well. And just being able to know when to slow down. You know, in social work, they used to be going and going and going, and you working two or three different things. And I just didn't know when to slow down. It's almost like I couldn't slow down when I was in social work. But I think I had to learn how to slow down and to know that I can slow down a bit. So uh, even coming back to social work, I'm better at balancing right now. And I think even with event planning, I learned to balance things. It helped me to balance things out. So yeah, that's what I took from event planning. And like you say, I learned even through event planning that the most important event is your life. So planning your life out, that's your most important event.
Come
So
on through with the wisdom. Yes, that is the most important event. I love that. And I love that you're able to now use what you learned from that experience with event planning and bring it now into returning back to the profession. It doesn't have to be a forever. In fact, we're going to be talking about the gateway. You went through a gate, coming back to the profession and learning, taking what you learned from not having to be on fire like we are in social work all the time. Everything is always on fire, but with event planning, saying I don't have to take on everything, and in fact, I don't want to take on everything. And now here I am back within the profession of social work. So, am I to assume that when you decided to come back, you came back to CAC, or was it?
well, yeah, I guess that was these social workers even before CAC. Like I said, I was doing recreational therapy. I did a little counseling, but it wasn't like when you into social work. So, but I think I guess you can say the social work was with CAC when I came back.
And so you've served in several roles at CAC, from elderly and disabled waiver to, is it ACT or is it ACT waiver?
It's ACT, but they do say ACT.
ACT. Okay. And I would love to know what that is, by the way. But now you're the transition coordinator. And I'm curious, how have these experiences shaped the way you approach your work with Gateway to Community Living?
Yes. Well, being first of all, and I'm glad that I was a case manager prior to taking on this role because number, I think just even knowing what case managers go through on a day to day really helps me in my role because I'm the one that kind of go out and get the clients and I bring them to the case manager. And I'm thankful. And I'm gonna tell you what ACT stands for before I forget. It's Alabama Community Transitions, and that's ACT. It is a Medicaid, one of Medicaid waivers.
Well, whose program is that under? So just
The
so I
ACT
can, is it its own standalone program?
it's under the Medicaid waiver program.
Okay, and who is that?
That's Camille.
I did meet with Camille. Okay, okay, so this is one of her programs.
Right.
Okay, and you were in that program and the elderly and disabled, and now you're transition. I got it. I'm following. Okay.
Yeah, because I had to, as a case manager, you have to have resources out there to be able to assist your clients. So, just, getting those resources out there in the community, it kind of helps me even now in that role. Because, if anybody moves, they know it takes money to be able to move. Now, while Medicaid do allot me some funding, it's not a whole lot of funding. So I have to take those funding and be able to transition someone out of the nursing home. Now, sometimes they have literally nothing but just the few clothes they have there in the nursing home. That's it. They have no bed, no living room furniture, nothing for the kitchen, bath, none of that. So we provide that for them. So I have, and I thank God for what we call our partners in the community now that they work with us to be able to find these items because you want something nice, especially when they're coming out. At least I want to be able to give them something nice, and I think they want something nice too. Because and I try to set up every home as if it was my home. And I do ask them like, what's your favorite color? What's your preference? I almost become an interior decorator. I can add that to my list. Just
Yes,
saying.
yes.
But I do try to get their preferences, what they liked, what they dislike, find out all of that. So when I am out there looking for a living room suit, okay, I know they like this, or, I take pictures and take it back to them, is this something you like? Oh, they love it. Really, most of them are so grateful they'll take anything, but I don't want to just give them anything. So I do try to
Yeah.
say, hey, this is true. Oh, that's nice. I take it. So it's just, going out there getting the things that they need to be able to have, and that's our fresh start. Being able to take that fresh start. So, and even as a case manager, you have to get out there and do what you got to do for your clients. So, and I say, bring on that case management component because I still got to get out there and to be able to get what I need to get for my clients that are coming out of the nursing home.
Because, like you said, and we're going to talk about exactly what gateway to community living means, but like you said, Medicaid or the funding source you have for this program is not a lot. And so you're
Right.
having to make something out of nothing
Mhm.
and you want to make it nice.
Right. Right.
And so being the case manager and knowing what the resources have been here in Montgomery and I guess the Tri-County area has really been beneficial for you to now do this work so successfully.
It has. Yes,
Mm.
it has.
And the other thing I was thinking, Erica, is how blessed the people are to have you. I mean, to only have the clothes on your back when you're leaving a nursing home and to be able to come home to a furnished home that somebody took a lot of care and love and making sure that they were comfortable. I mean, when Jesus talked about take care of the least of these, that right
Mhm.
there is what I imagine is what exactly you're doing. So thank you for that work. Thank you for this work.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
So, for those listeners who may not be familiar, what does the phrase gateway to community living mean in practice for you?
Well, when you think about a gate allows us to have access to be able to maybe leave out of a place or to come into a place. So when I think about gateway, it not only gives the residents in the nursing home, but even family members that want to bring their loved ones home. Gateway now it becomes that gate to for them to be able to access, to be able to come out of the nursing home and come into the community now. And I will say this: while we always want to set people up for success, we always want to do that. So when they do come out, we want them to stay out, but and I do, but as we all know, life happens, things happen, and I always tell people, I'm glad you're out. I want you to remain out, but at any point in time, you feel like, or God forbid, your health failed again or something, you can come back through that gate and you get the help you need. And I pray that people see Gateway as um it can help me to be able to get out, because most time you think about when people go into a nursing home, they think it's a death sentence. They think I'm in here for life, like I'm on death row or something, and I'm just in here for life and I can't get out. And that's what Gateway do, is allows them a way out. That gives them the help and the assistance they need to be able to get out and back in the community living.
And Eric, I love that the gate for Gateway goes both ways. Like they can, if they need to, if we're leaving to go into the community, we're going to make sure you have a nice, a good enough home to go to, a nice home that's nice for you. But also, if you feel like you need to go back, we're going to make sure you get the resources you need to go back as well.
Right.
I I
Yes.
I I love that. I love that. And so, can you walk us through what the transition would look like for someone moving from a nursing facility back into their community?
Yes, ma'am. Well, one of the things, I always, in addition to asking that question, I always get asked, "Well, what I need to do to, the only thing a person in nursing home has to say is, I want to go home." And they specifically, can ask for the Gateway program. We have educated, hear me teaching again, those social workers, not just the social workers, but even administrators of the facility. We educate them. If a client do come and say, "Hey, I want to go home, I want to leave here," we teach them, offer them Gateway. If they don't know Gateway by name, then you offer Gateway to them. So once they say that, then the social worker or whoever the nursing facility deem as their gateway person, to put in that referral. They have to put in a referral, and that referral, when the social worker do, typically it is the social worker in the facility that does the referrals. They send that referral to Medicaid, and issue goes to Medicaid. And what Medicaid would do is send a referral to me, or the transition coordinator. And I go out and I do have to do an assessment, because one of the qualifications for a gateway is that you have to qualify medically. You don't everybody, we don't automatically um, just transition anybody that says, okay, you do have to qualify. So let me say that it is for qualified residents of nursing homes. So once I go out and do my assessment, and I do let them know, hey, you have to qualify. And I tell them my steps of what a process that I have to do. And once I gather all my information that I need, I send that information to a nurse, because it is Alabama Department of Senior Services that oversees me, or they really oversees the waiver program and the gateway program. But the nurses there looks through this person files, looks through my assessment and everything, and they'll determine if medically, if that person is able to transition out of that nursing home. And I do tell the person, and I do want people to understand, and I always tell the resident, you have to understand you're leaving a 24-hour facility that is mandated by a nurse. So you're leaving this nursing care, going back in the community where you won't have that care. So it's two things Medicaid will like. Number one, if you can maintain your health outside of this facility, and that it's going to be a safe transition for you. Because again, we want to set you up for success. So we're not going to put you out there and you don't have the support you need. You can't get transportation to your medical appointments or be able to access your medication or food or whatever. So we go through all those things. We develop a plan. So once, if they are deemed appropriate for Gateway to transition them home, we can look at it's two options really, because sometimes they may have housing that they can go to, or they may be going home with a family member. And I call them my easy transitions, my quick transition. Um, because I'm pretty much just going to wherever they're gonna live, and I do a home assessment. I look and see what all they're gonna need to be able to stay in this home, and be able to be successful in staying at home. But once all those things are identified and we secure those items, then I go to the social worker and or their discharge planner there at the nursing home, and we set a discharge date for this person. And then that person, once they get their discharge date, we move them out. And like I say, then I take those fundings and I go shopping. Whether it's cleaning supplies, whether it's, we could get a couple of personal hygiene items for them, whatever they need, just to be in that home. If it's some furniture, if it's medical equipment, we make sure they have all medical equipment that they need as well. And we do provide what we call in-home services, and this is where the ACT program comes in. And I'm gonna be biased here because I think ACT program has the greatest social worker or the greatest case manager there is, the one that I work with, and she's really great. So once the person goes home, I turn that client over to her and she takes it up from there. She makes sure they received all the services that, we kind of sit down and figure out that they would need. And she makes sure it's like a well-oiled machine that running. So, and she does a great job with it. And I look at it this way, and I often tell her that I transition them home. But she helped them to make the shift, because you got to understand, even we have to work with the mindset, because they're used to pushing a button and somebody coming, to bring them this or help them with that. But they got to make the shift now that they're at home. You can't push a button or just call. Her name is Kathy. I hope she'll mind me saying her name. Miss Kathy, and Miss Kathy come running. But she helps them make that shift to say, I'm gonna be here to come alongside you and work with you. But there are some things now you got to do for yourself, because nobody's gonna come running, you know. So you may have to get up and do some things, but she definitely be there to make sure you got the resources and the tools that you need to be able to do what you got to do. So, that's pretty much the process. And on the other side, if they don't have a place to go, or if they don't have family members home that they're going to live with, then we assist them with finding placement. Now, this is where I do all my running around, because we have to find what we say affordable housing for them. So we do look at, how much income they're going to be having coming in. And most time they do go into, like, the senior living apartments, most time that they go into. So we assist them with filling out the application, turning it in. If there's an application fee, Gateway pays for that. I don't know if I said this, but Gateway will pay for the first month rent. If there are any deposits, even utility deposits, we'll pay for that as well. And that is just a one-time thing that we do as far as Gateway. We'll take care of you that first month, but the second month on, you kind of on your own with it. So we got to make sure, and again, we, send people up for success. That's why I said we do look for places that they're going to be able to afford, because we don't want you to be out here and can't pay your rent or can't pay the utility bill. So that's why we look at, all aspects of that, making sure we
Mhm.
in the right place, and I know crime is everywhere, but we do try to make sure you're in a good, safe place, because we want you to be safe too, and plus have a nice dwelling place as well.
I love that. And tell me what the Act Waiver is one more time. What does
It's,
it
it's
stand for?
Alabama Community Transitions.
And so once you get them set up, you hand them over to the ACT waiver,
Okay.
and then they will help make sure that the rent and their utilities and all that that's kind of like make sure you're paying it, kind of holding their
Right,
hand a
right.
little
They're
bit. Okay, okay. I have two
uh,
questions, and I'm gonna ask both of them because I'll forget them if I don't. One, I love what you said about. I don't love what you said, but it was I had that mindset about once you go into a nursing home, we feel like it's a life sentence. I guess I didn't think about or even consider you actually can leave the nursing home when you are. I mean, there are people who actually leave, and so I guess I wanted. Is it rare for people to leave the nursing home, or is it becoming more common? And then the second question is, one, I'm thinking the nursing home social workers must love you. Like I would be contacting you all the time if I'm a discharge planner in a nursing home. I'm like, hey, I got this person who's medically qualified to transition out of the nursing home if they want to. How can you help me? So one, I'm wondering if it's rare, but then two, I wrote down the word hospital because I know there's discharge planners in the hospital. Could you help
mhm,
people who've been in hospitals for a long time also with their discharge planning?
mhm. Well, now, I personally don't
Okay.
do the hospital, but we do have a hospital. It's called Hospital to Home program, and there's a coordinator for that. Now she goes into the hospitals and assists the patients there in the hospital to be able to transition home with a waiver program. Now, with her program, she can place people on the ACT waiver or the END or the Elderly and Disabled Waiver Program. So she can do that from the hospital.
I love that. I
I
hope I'm going to be interviewing her. I don't know if she's on my schedule, but I would love to hear more about her program. But I'm glad to know about the program because one of the things I keep saying this in every podcast episode. One of the things I keep hearing about CAAC is if they don't have the resource, they'll help you find it. And the fact
right,
that you focus on the nursing home, but you also have a program that can help with hospital transition, it's like,
right.
yeah, y'all have all the resources. And that's why I'm like, we're trying to get the word out to everybody about your program. But then let's go back to my original question. Is it rare then? Because I did have that mindset of when you go to a nursing home, that's it. You're in the nursing home now. Is this a rare or a pretty frequent thing that people are able to go to the nursing home and then transition to the community?
Um, I don't think it's rare. I think there are a lot of people, whether they transition with Gateway or not. I mean, you don't have to transition with Gateway, but there are people that do leave that nursing home without Gateway. They do have whether they with family or with that support, and they just choose not to take Gateway. But it's not a rare thing, so they can leave. And they do leave.
I
Yes. Yeah.
apparently, I'm learning.
Ones that probably have that mindset, they probably just don't know, or like I say, they may not even know or feel like they could have the support they need, or even the means. A lot of people don't have the means of leaving because like I say, some of them, like I say, all they have is what possession they have there in the nursing home. They don't have the money to pay security deposits. They don't have the money to pay the first month rent because you got to understand if their check is going to the nursing home, they got to change all that around and I think that's why Gateway pays that first month because it gives you time now to go to Social Security, be able to change your address so you can now begin to receive your Social Security check or whatever means of income that they're getting. So it's just to help them to do that. So it's kind of hard, you can't really save your money to get a sofa, a bed, or anything, you just don't have the means. So I think that's why
Hmm.
this is a life sentence. I'm just gonna, as they say, die here. But I said, oh, you're not gonna die. Don't say that, but we do what we can.
I
To
love
eat.
this. This is a very amazing program. One, I just thought you went to the nursing home and that was it. But now to hear that, no, you can go home and there's actually resources to help you go home to either your family's home or your own home. and to be able to live
Right.
quality life. So, Erica, thank you for this work that you do. But I'm curious, without naming names, obviously, because we respect confidentiality. Is there a story that captures the heart of what this program can do for someone for you? Like when you think about someone meaningful, is there something that stands out for you?
Yeah, but it is one particular resident. Like we talk about not having the means of being able to transition out of the nursing home. This young man went into the nursing home, and he really just wanted to go in just for a short stay to get his health more under control and become more stable. And he did that. But even after doing that, he was doing all he can to maintain his apartment, um, but just wasn't able to. The lights got cut off, all the water, everything got cut off. So he just didn't have the means of trying to get back home. So that's when the social worker mentioned to him about Gateway. And that's where I came in. So when I sat down and I was talking to him, you know, a lot of times I get this a lot. People say I'm an angel, you must be an angel, and I'm like, no, I'm not an angel. But I'm just the transition coordinator, but we was able to help him, get his utilities turned back on. Even though, like I say, he had a great landlord that really had worked with him, and kept that apartment for him till he was able to come back. So we was able to, to pay his rent, to pay the utilities and stuff, and um, giving him, like I say, we helped. He needed just a few things, to be able to go back home. And so once we went and identified what he needed, we got it, and he was able to go back home. And I'm doing well. I asked the case manager about him a few weeks ago, and she said he's doing well. He's doing
I
really well.
love
So,
that. And I wrote down young man. And again,
yeah,
busting myths about nursing home. He must have been in his 20s if you're saying young, 20, 30s if you're saying he was.
say 40, 50 is young. So,
Yeah, that's true. It is. It is very young. You're absolutely right.
I don't say you're older till you're 90. Now,
I
if you're 90 years
agree.
old, we can say,
But it's busting that myth about CAAC works with the aging, not just with the elderly. And then here you are talking about this young man in a nursing home, again, busting that myth that nursing home is not just for the elderly. And then again, CAAC with your program, Gateway to Community, helping a young person who's in
yeah.
a nursing home get back to an apartment that they had worked really hard to maintain.
Exactly. Yeah. And, I think it's, just my, observation when I go in there, I see more young actually than I see the old. Yeah.
You know what? I'm hearing that a lot lately, actually.
And younger, 50 and younger. Uh,
Mm,
I see quite a few. So, yeah.
wow, I'm hearing that a lot lately. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're educating the public right now, and we're being reminded that the nursing home is not for the elderly. Yeah, it's not for the elderly. Um,
Um,
I want to shift back into no. I'm going to ask you one more question about Gateway, but and I think this is a good segue for what we were just talking about. How do you feel programs like Gateway and ACT change the way we think about long term care here in Alabama?
well, like it's not, for everything. I think one thing, like I stated, that, people go in and think like, this is it for me. I'm not going to be able to leave here. I got to stay here the rest of my life. So I think Gateway has not only given hope to the residents, but like I said, even their families. A lot of times their families, who can't not, care for them at home anymore, tend to, put them in a nursing home, and they want to bring them home, but just don't have the help or the assistance. Well, Gateway does that for them. We now can give you, the assistance to the family member where family members won't get burned out. Because I don't know if you ever been a caregiver. Caregivers can easily get burned out. So, just putting that, in-home services in the home to help not only just the client, but even the family, give them opportunity to take a rest from taking care of mom, dad, or whoever the loved one is. So it kind of gives them hope, and give them the help that they need to be able to, like I said, just live life at home, and that's what we want.
I was gonna say that's what we all want. Yeah, that's all we all just want. So so beautiful. And thank you again, Erica, for doing this work and for being so passionate and excited about it, especially after having a long career and then changing and then coming back and knowing that there's still more to give and more to do. And so thank you for doing this work. But I want to ask you a question because I do have the honor of sitting with a social worker who's been in the field for almost 3 decades. And so, one of my favorite questions here on the Goddesses of Social Work podcast is there a belief about social work that has changed for you over the years?
Yeah.
What is it? I want to know.
When I was in college, I just believe social workers like really superheroes, and we can change the world. And that's what I was going to do. I had this dream. I was going to build this big old house, and all the people who was homeless and unemployed, they was going to come and I was going to help them. And I was going to do all these things. I was going to be just making a difference everywhere. But quickly, I learned, hey, you can't save the world. If
Mm-hmm.
you save one, and that's all I cared to do. If I could save one person, I've done more than enough. So, but it's been more than one person along these years. But not the world, not the world, because you talking about a burnout.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. You know what
yeah.
I was thinking when the young man in the nursing home who's now in his own apartment, and you guys helped get the utilities back on and paid his rent, and thankfully he had a great landlord. But he called you an angel, and you were like, "I was going to go out here and save the world," but my goodness, did you know you were going to become an angel?
Mm-mm.
Mm,
No.
yeah, I think that's
Mhm.
better than saving the world. That's better. So thank you for being an angel. I love that. This has been such a fantastic interview so far. I only got a couple more questions. Are you up for them?
Yes, ma'am.
Yay. So when you look back on your work so far, almost 30 years, next year will be 30 years since you got your social work degree. What makes you most proud and what do you hope listeners take away from about this program in particular? But really first, what makes you most proud of your 30-year career?
Then I didn't give up. Even though I took the break,
Mm-hmm.
I came back.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't take anything from my journey. The lessons, that you learn along the way, the relationships, the friendships that, you develop along the way. I thank God for those. You know, so it's been a lot, and oh, it made me feel so old. 30 years. Oh, yeah.
I'm
But
right there with you, darling. I'm right there with you. I feel like we are the wisdom holders of the profession. I like it. Let me hold the wisdom for the profession. So I'm right there with you with almost 30 years as well. But keep going.
But just most proud of, and I guess what makes me so proud is just seeing, the ones that we do help, that they're still doing well. That's thanks enough for me. And that's what I tell people. They be like, how can I repay? Hey, just say thank you and just go out there and live, and I would say not just survive, but thrive. I see so many
Mm-hmm.
clients now, they're thriving. And even just going back to my mental health days, I had one client, her goal, she wanted to learn how to drive. When she got on the park, she wanted to learn how to drive. When she went in and took the written test, and she passed it, and she tried the road test and failed. It devastated her. I said, hey, don't you give up. You know, you got to have a plan B. I say, just because that didn't work, I say, if you think you need more practice, whatever, I said, they got driving schools. They got people that will help you, get a little bit more experience. And she did that. She enrolled in driving school and they helped her. and she passed the driving test, and she was so thankful. I say, you see, you didn't give up. You went to plan B, plan A, and you did try to do it on your own, and it didn't work, but you developed a plan B, and it worked. And I told her, take that with you. Don't just give up because plan A don't work. Have your backup plan. And that's one things we do work with our clients. You got to have a backup plan when you're out here. What happens if A don't follow through? You got to have a B to pull on. So just them seeing them working they plan A. And if it don't work, they pull it on plan B. So just seeing them thrive, that's makes me proud. Um, and that's all the thanks I need. Just seeing
Yeah.
them being.
Yeah. And I love that you're saying not giving up. And that's what she started with I didn't give up. Even if I took a break and I did something separate that I loved and ended up being able to bring what I love into the profession with me when I came back, you first didn't give up. And now you get to mirror that and witness that in your clients not giving up as well. And we're so glad you didn't give up because the work you're doing with this Gateway to Community program is amazing. And so I'm here with my last question, and I changed it just a little bit. But if you had a magic wand, I love magic wands, and you can add one resource or support to make community transition smoother for clients and families in Alabama, what would that be?
More housing.
Mm-hmm.
Wish today, when I walk in there and I tell them, hey, you qualify, I wish I could move them out right then and there. Because if they don't have the housing to go to, like I said, we have to find it. And sometimes housing, there's a waiting list. So I have to deal with the wait, WEIGHT, of the wait, WAIT,
Come on
not
through
just,
with a word. Mm.
but for them too, because they're ready to go. I'm ready for you to go, but we got a waiting list now. So I think just more housing, just for our elderly and disabled. Those people, because you got to think about they're on Social Security. So, most of them getting SSI and Social Security. So they don't have a whole lot. Like with me, you out there working a job, they're not making six figures. So I wish we could have more affordable housing for them. That would be my thing. If I had a magic one, I'd be putting
Yeah,
affordable housing.
I love a magic line. Yeah, it's affordable housing for you. It sound like Oprah. You get affordable housing. You get affordable housing. Yes, I love that. You know what? I know I said that was the last question, but when you came through with the weight, WEIGHT versus the weight, WAIT, that was a word. I feel like I would be doing our audience a misservice, a disservice, if I didn't ask you what would be one final word of advice that you would give social workers who are new or mid-career, or even social workers like me who are right there with you at 30 years. What would be some advice that you would give us as final words tonight?
Breathe.
Mm,
Just breathe.
yeah.
Um, I know things, like I said with social worker, it's just busy, busy. You're going, you're going, you're going. A lot of times as social workers, because I know I did it, I'm doing it, you don't take time for you. Take time for you. If it's no more than you sitting and just breathing, relaxing, you know, you got to have that self-care. And, when I talk about self-care, I'm not just talking about getting your hair done, your nails done, your feet done. I'm just talking about just sitting down in some peace and quiet, you know, like they say, take time, smell a rose, buy your flowers. We talked about the flowers. Buy you some fresh cut flowers, smell them, enjoy them. Or better yet, if you like my mama, I didn't develop the green thumb like my mama did, but she kept a flower garden. She would be out there in her flower garden. Some people say digging in the earth or digging in the dirt is very relaxing and it's good for you. But I would say, yeah, take care of you. If it's no more than you just taking a minute, 5 minutes of your day to just sit quietly and just breathe. That's it.
And I did. I literally just took a breath in when you said breathe. And that is so important. And you said something earlier. Your most important event is your life.
Yeah.
And you just brought it right back to that again. These jobs are going to be here, y'all. They are going
Yes.
to be here. And you worked years as a supervisor at mental health and left and came back, and guess what, you able to still get a job in this profession. These jobs are going to be here. We got to make sure that our lives are here in order to do those jobs. So y'all breathe. Erica said it, breathe. That
Yes.
was so good. So good. Erica, thank you so much for sharing your story and your wisdom with us today. Your dedication across so many different roles reminds us that community living isn't just about policy, it's about people like you walking alongside our clients to make sure they have the dignity, the independence, and the resources they deserve. And for our listeners, if you would like to learn more about the Gateway to Community Living program, you can connect with the Central Alabama Aging Consortium. I'll make sure we leave Erica's contact information and or the links to CAAC and the resource notes below. And also, don't forget this whole program, we're doing this. Didn't even ask you about it, but we're doing this because we're going to be at CAAC November 1st for the Remember Me project and film screening community gathering, where Erica will be there with the other coordinators, giving us and telling us more about their programs and giving us those resources that she was talking about on the show today. So come learn, come eat. We're going to feed you. We're going to have the film. We're going to love on you a little bit and get you a warm hug from Erica, because this is what this podcast episode felt like tonight, a warm hug. So thank you again, Erica.
You're welcome.
This has been the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. I've been your host, Renita Ray Davis, and we will see you all next time.